Hello, welcome to Fig Tree Christian. I'm Pastor Melissa, and I'm so glad that you are here today. Today, I want to delve into one little piece that I discussed last week, and I want to pull it apart some. It's Lent. We've got to talk about how we are ashes, how we were born of ashes, and to ashes we will return. And we're going to do that through a statement that I made, which was, there is something beyond this realm of existence. I want to discuss that because I watched a video yesterday and it was talking about our mortality and how we make up gods and how we do that to comfort ourselves because there's nothing beyond this. And I need to discuss this. I need to discuss this today. I need to do something I said I wasn't going to do last week, which is drop in a hint of Jesus's resurrection. Just a little drop. I need that little drop so that I can have this discussion. Otherwise, it's going to be very dark. And I don't know if you see this, but this is not a dark setup here. This is kind of like a light, upbeat setup. Oh, speaking of which, I found this little guy at Goodwill yesterday. I am way more excited than I probably should be. It's St. Francis. I saw him and I immediately knew who he was, even though I didn't look at the back. But the back, it speaks. It's St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Love that. That's my favorite St. Francis quote ever. And I just had to add him to this little setup. He's one of my favorite desert fathers. Not my favorite. My favorite's Augustine, but he's a close second. Okay, continuing on. Today we are going to discuss there's something beyond this realm of existence. And to do this, I have to set up what was said, a little piece. I can't pull the video, but I can tell you that it was John Green. So if you want to go back and look at his video, go ahead. I actually encourage it. It's a nice discussion about humanism, and we are not going completely there, but I do have to set up what he said so that I can then continue the conversation here. So he said that life is like being in a room. And the idea is that we can't imagine ourselves outside said room because either we're in the room and this is where we're at, or we're imagining ourselves not in the room, but we're still using our perception to see into the room. Therefore, in some form, we are still there. So the idea of imagining ourselves not existing is impossible because we are born as individuals and we see everything from our perception, and that is it. And then we can't go beyond that, which is absolutely and totally 100% true. I absolutely believe that. I am 100% on board. I've said it before in Fig Tree articles that we all have an independent, personalized view of the universe that we cannot separate. We will never be able to separate ourselves from the whole, ever. That being said, he used it to describe us not being able to see us not being here anymore. The idea of non-existence. And I do believe that too. So right now we are 100% on board with what John Green was saying. And now I need to go into the next layer of it. I said last week that we need to not start our statement of faith with we believe in one God, because that is not the most simplistic idea of faith that there is right now. It used to be that in the 300s, the big question wasn't whether there is or isn't a God. It was whether there is or isn't gods or God. So it had to be in the 300s, we believe in one God, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. That had to be the first conversation. But flash forward to today, and that is a later conversation for a later time. What actually has to happen first, before we even get to that, is we believe there is something beyond this realm of existence. Now, I said this statement 12, 13 years ago to a group of Redditors, and the response of that conversation was a lot of anger. It was a lot of anger because either it's something that's comforting or it's something that you know can lead in a different track. And that is definitely where I want to start today. If you notice my comments on Facebook, and I'll put it in YouTube too, because I know I'm going to post this directly after I get done with this. I wrote that abstraction allows for inclusion and definition limits participation. Now, I want to explain that phrase a little bit. When we go on a trail, now, I think a great example would be there's usually a map, right? When you go on a hike, you get the map and it all starts in the same place. There's a starting area. But the moment you start, there's going to be places where you can get on specific trails. The white trail, the brown trail, the red trail, the blue trail. These are pretty typical named trails. Like the white trail is going to be the most on point trail that most everybody's going to end up taking. But the red trail is a nice, easy trail. Let's go ahead and take that for today and we can come back and take the white trail later. Anyway, anytime you start a journey, there's going to be no definition. No one is really on a trail. It all has to start in the same place. So when you say there's something beyond our realm of existence, that is a big, huge statement. A huge statement that can lead in pretty much almost any direction except right behind us, where the opposite of that is there is nothing beyond our realm of existence. But I believe that even if we don't believe there is, okay, take a deep breath. Take another one. What I'm going to say is going to sound heretical, but it's not. It is simply that my beginning is the beginning of a lot of things. Like if you are a scientist and you say there is something beyond our realm of understanding, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you believe that there is a God. I'm not saying that that's what I believe. I am coming to the starting point that can go in many directions, and I'm going to end up going in a specific direction, not today, but eventually. When you say, I believe there's something more, that can be a whole lot of things. It could be that the cones in my eyes and the way that we can see things with our machinery is limited because we're going to understand more in 1,000 years, and our understanding is going to be way more than what we can perceive today. There is something more beyond our realm of understanding. It could be philosophical, like take the scientist part out of it, and we could be looking like at Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black when he's sitting down and he's saying that only 1,000 years ago, we thought that the earth was flat. And maybe more than 1,000 years ago, I think Plato and I think all the round earth people happened more than 1,000 years ago. But hundreds upon hundreds of years ago, now I have a nice inclusive number, we believed that the earth was flat, and that was the truth. And as we have begun to explore our universe, our world, ourselves, we have learned that the earth is round and that we are not the center of it, but merely a part of the center of the galaxy, which is not the center of the universe, which is not the center, which is solar system, galaxy, universe. There we go. I got there. That's what happens when you do this live, is that sometimes you make those kind of silly mistakes. The world, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, it's all more than we understand. And it's beyond our realm of comprehension, that there could possibly be something beyond it. Going back to the room, because I had said that John Green talked about ourselves as something we cannot leave, and then therefore we cannot see beyond the room. That goes the other direction as well. We cannot see beyond the room. And there are people who can perceive that there might be something beyond that room, that there might be something when that person leaves the room. And while they can't see beyond the wall, they believe there's something beyond the wall. And in some ways, we can't limit that. We can't discount that that's a possibility. Yes. You can tell me about neurons and about pathways, and you can talk to me rationally about the physical world. But until we're really delving into the spiritual side of things, there's a lot we cannot say. There is something more beyond our realm of possibility. There is something beyond us. And at the beginning of the trail, there are people who are going to say that that realm of possibility is a way that we exist beyond our bodies. And there are going to be those who say it's a way that there's God and people who exist beyond their bodies. The spiritual world is more than electrical currents. These are things that we cannot speak 100% to because we are limited to the room. And we will always be limited to the room. And there is nothing we can do about that. There is nothing we can change about that except maybe put our ears to the wall. And maybe it's not about imagining or being able to conceive of what the room would be like without us in it, but to start to explore what sounds and noises and feelings are coming from the other side of the wall. That's where Jesus comes in. This is my little drop. You ready for my little drop? Because I promise that Lent's not about the resurrection of Jesus. We shouldn't be delving too much into it. That's what Easter is for. There's something that is there that cannot be explained beyond it's a made-up story to help children sleep at night, because there's more than that there. That was one of the things that I really wanted to do in seminary. And maybe I just hate myself. I don't know. But I feel like I want the truth, and I want the truth no matter how it comes out. So one of the things that I really wanted to do in seminary was to prove that the New Testament was made up, because at least then, if I'm actually making the effort to try to do that, then I'm more confident when I say that I believe that Jesus is the Christ. And then in the process of doing that, I realized it's not even about that, about the actuality of Jesus as the Christ, as in a real person who was crucified and came back to life. It's about how Jesus comes back to life every day within us, and how new life happens all the time, and how we're supposed to live into that, how we're supposed to allow the death to happen so that we can live again. Oh my goodness, this is way more than a drop of Jesus. Whew. Okay, backing up just a little. This period of time, Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter minus Sundays. So today, I guess we can't talk about Jesus because it's technically not Lent. It's the break from Lent. But to get to the life that happens after death, and happens over and over and over again, that things die all the time and new birth comes from it, to get to that point where we can allow new life, we must allow the death to occur. So in a very real way, when John Green's talking about that room and about how we cannot imagine ourselves not in it, even if it's from a perception of outside of ourselves, where we're looking into the room, and even though it's us looking into the room, it's still important this time of year to imagine or to allow death to happen. And that one's really difficult because we don't want to. We want to move past this point. We want to celebrate. We want to be resurrected. But resurrection cannot happen until we agree to go on the trail. Until we agree that this right here is temporary. This is not going to last. This is going to age and decay. But from it is going to be new life. That is abstraction. There's something really vague about it because it has to be vague, because if I start to define it, then we're leaving the room. And we've got to talk about leaving the room eventually and what that looks like and what that might feel like. And we, as a people, need to give clarity and grace and love to leaving the room. Another deep breath. This is a tough time of year. And it's weird. It's weird because it's making way into a not tough part of the time of the year. I'm pointing towards a window where it's clearly light and I can hear birds. You can't, but I can hear birds outside, and spring is coming, and we are celebrating, and we are starting to stay up later and all of that. But in the same way, we're also exploring what it means to be dust. Coming from dust and returning to dust. And what does that mean? It means that we have to start somewhere. And that somewhere has to be really, really vague to start with, because creating always starts vague. All the pieces before you the pieces don't mean anything because they haven't been named yet. But there's something more. Something can be built. Something can be rebuilt. But we have to let go of what needs to be buried and made into ash again, so that something new may come from it. Today feels like a prayer day, you know? Like, let's end in prayer. Let's invite God into this moment, and let's have a moment where we can worship and be together. Ready? Oh God, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen, help us come to the path together. Maybe we'll go our separate ways. Maybe we'll stay together. As we define ourselves clearly, people are not going to stay on our path. But until they part, may we know that they are our brothers and sisters, and they are loved eternally. Be with us as we understand that there's something more. All that we have learned is not all there is to be learned. And all that we know is not all there is to know. And that, in and of itself, is an exciting adventure. And all this we pray. Amen. May the Lord go with you in whatever way that you think that that is, especially in the way that I think that it is. Go in peace.